Hello everybody. Thanks again for visiting my YouTube channel. This is the place where we discuss the Lord's Recovery Movement of Witness Lee, also known as the local church movement. Well, I got a little treat today. There's a series on Netflix called Explained, and it's a documentary series that covers certain subjects that are interesting and maybe a little bit of a mystery to people. And they did one on the subject of cults. And I recently watched it and I was transfixed by it for practically the whole thing. Once again, the problems in the Lord's recovery I saw reflected in these descriptions and examples of these cults. Many of these groups are much more extreme than the Lord's recovery, but the elements are there. The defining features are there. They may be milder in the Lord's recovery, but they are almost all there. Originally, I intended to embed the video in this episode of mine, but I tried that and YouTube blocked it because of the copyrighted content. So I'm providing a link to the video, which is on YouTube, and you can watch it and then come back and listen to my comments, which were originally intended to be interspersed in the video. So go ahead and watch it and then come back and listen to my comments. There have been thousands of cults in history. There are many cults now, and it's impossible to say how many there are because no cult admits to being a cult, and nobody who's in a cult thinks they're in a cult. Now consider that in light of the Lord's recovery. When you were in it, did you think you were in some kind of weird group? Will they ever admit it? No, they deny it. But the fact is, those two things are perfectly in keeping with every other group like this. Nobody thinks they're in one, and none of the groups think they are one. What a cult is, or what we're trying to describe, is sometimes hard to define because it is an aberration that is a combination of good impulses that have been turned to a bad thing. People join groups like this because they're looking for meaning in their life, they're looking for purpose, they're looking for answers, they're looking for community, they're looking for love, they're looking for acceptance, and they're looking to live their lives in the best way possible. Nobody joins a group like this because they want to be pawns of some evil leader. One of the speakers makes the comment that cult plus time equals religion, and that is the groups that eventually are seen as acceptable or normal to society are the ones that normalize in a sense where the members are not being abused. And any group has the potential of being abusive. It's when the leaders take advantage of the trust of the members and the willingness of the members to submit and obey them to do something nefarious. So you have to look at it like something on a continuum, as we saw in an earlier episode, that defining yes, no, it's a cult is a lot less important than understanding the tendencies and when these groups reach a point where they become intolerable. And the Lord's recovery, I believe, reached that a long time ago, and I've said it over and over and over, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I really think it is the problem. It's this business of they are it, you can't leave, this is where it's all happening, we are the best, and this control they have over people, this taking away of a person's right to decide their own destiny, and that's what all these groups do. A cult is, in a sense, like pornography. It's hard to define, but you know it when you see it. These groups often form as a defense mechanism against the world around them, and this attitude leads to a self-defensive mechanism which is self-perpetuating. The world is the threat, the group is the solution. Even the world telling the group, hey, you're going off the rails, is seen as just another part of the threat. And so self-correction in the group becomes even harder. This is another really important point to catch, where he says idealism can easily turn into authoritarianism. And again, this is an example of good intentions going bad and ends justifying means. All these groups claim to be the true way and then ask you to close your eyes to problems and even to say that if you focus on problems, you are hurting the cause. This is just one more way they go wrong. It's not about the belief system of the group per se. The details of the beliefs, in the sense of, is it orthodox theology, is it weird theology, those are important, but what's really crucial to one of these abusive groups is how it manipulates and controls its members. And in fact, a group like the Lord's Recovery, claiming to be truly orthodox, or truly according to the Bible, is actually just one more means of control and manipulation. It's one more means of deception. Okay, just because you have a lot of biblical teachings does not mean that you don't control and manipulate your members. The woman who was talking about the children of God said that it felt like the Bible was the operating system and the leader was putting his programs on top of that. So the Bible is just a means by which the leader gains control over his people. Now, these leaders might actually believe they are who they say they are. They might even seem to have good intentions, but the fact is, once you start trying to control people, you've become one of these groups, and the Lord's Recovery has. I hope you've seen the parallels here between what these groups do and what the Lord's Recovery does. The exaltation of the leader, the peer pressure, the soft sell, the targeting of people in need, and in the end, a leader or a system that is narcissistic. A leader or a system that is much more important than you are, and who or which you exist to serve. And let me just say at this point, a little tongue-in-cheek, I would be disappointed if at this point you weren't thinking, wait a minute, I'm following a guy online, this Cal guy. I think it's kind of funny, but it is an important thing to realize that even this thing that we're doing here could turn into something weird if we let it. What I've noticed is the dynamic is the leader gets this adrenaline rush from thinking he's some kind of big shot who's leading people to some happy place, and the followers get this idea that they're part of something special. Now, the root of that, in one sense, is normal human feelings. If you are a leader, you should get some feeling of reward from that. And if you are a follower, you should get some feeling of reward from that. But it's when these things get twisted and perverted is when they start to become a problem. It's just part of human nature to be so desperate to be seeking answers that you ignore the warning signs, you ignore the red flags. I hope people continue to listen to my episodes as long as they feel like they're helpful, but it would be very easy to fall into something like that. That's just the nature of the beast. It's true for any group. Anybody can be a cult leader. Anybody can be a cult follower. We all might be, in some sense, in some case. What's important is not to say, I'm a good guy and you're a bad guy. The important thing is to be aware of what's going on around you and understand these primitive motivations that cause these things to happen. And they happen over and over and over again. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was fascinating and very well done, and extremely informative and enlightening in a much broader sense than just the Lord's Recovery. That this phenomenon is something that can happen in just about any situation. And I think what works for me and what I would like to pass on to you is the same idea that I gave in the episode I talked about the sanctity of autonomy. That you have a right to make decisions about your life, and you should never let a group take so much control of your life that that is compromised in a significant way. Yes, we all make sacrifices for the groups we're a part of. That's one thing that makes them rewarding. And that's another thing that makes this phenomenon so insidious, is that it exploits our good intentions and our normal human instincts to want to be giving and sharing and sacrificial for the people who are important in our life and the causes that are important in our life, to the point where they take away our choice. It is a situation where there is no love, because love says, I want to do this. These groups say you don't have a choice. You have to hold on to that autonomy in your life, and that sense of you chart your destiny yourself. That doesn't mean you don't get your help from God if God is part of your life. But it does mean that you always approach groups and others with the sense of, I would like to share life with you, but I'm not going to let you control my life. And that's a choice, and love is always a choice. I hope that helps. We'll see you next time. Take care.